self-love and self-esteem, and how do we deal with this. So I'm going to be talking about it for 20 minutes, and I would really like your attention on this. I know Zoom calls can get tiring at times because of the amount of them, but ultimately we want to do this for you. It's an important topic, and it's something that we need to discuss together as a group. I want to lay out some pointers because in some way that's what Jobin has asked me to do, to lay out some pointers, some things for us to think about. But ultimately, it's a question we seriously have to wrestle with, right? In some sense, if we can get this question right, it can define our entire lives, how we conduct our lives from here onwards, how the whole concept of self-love and self-esteem. And sometimes it might just be one thing in your mind which has to change for you to achieve this. But the problem with us human beings, it's things are very deep rooted, the place in which we were born, the friends that we have, the college that we might go to, the type of parents that we have, the type of siblings that we have. And all these have such a deep impact in our lives. And ultimately, it's the human struggle against all these different impacts defining how to love ourselves. I want to start off by saying one of the biggest things that will influence how you look at yourself is your culture. Your culture always tells you how you need to view yourself, how you need to look, what type of nose you need to have, or what type of a look that you need to have, what type of a complexion you need to have. And culture will always say, this is what you need to be in order to love yourself. You need to have this amount of marks. If you don't, then you're pretty dumb. And if you're dumb, then there's no point loving yourself. You need to have a certain amount of money or job, or there's always putting propaganda into your mind saying, in order for you to love yourself, you need this, this, and this. All right. But the beauty of it is, or the paradox of it is, even people who have this huge desires, thinking that one day they will reach there and then they will love themselves, they reach that point and still understand they're still very empty. Still absolutely empty. There's this very famous story of an Olympic runner who felt that ultimately to win the Olympics is his ultimate goal. If he can do that, then his identity is placed. What he's worked for is finally put in place. And the thing is, he spoke to someone after the Olympic game. He won that race. And one of the things that he was saying is that he's running and he's ultimately reaching the final line. And he's about to reach there. And this is what he's worked for the last 30 years of his life. This is the goal in which he achieved. And if he reaches this, then he has ultimately made it. He's about to reach there. And the only thought he has in his mind is my father watching me? Does he know that this is what I am doing? And one of the things that he wanted to say is, ultimately, I'm reaching that one destination, right, in order to reach. But what I ultimately want is someone to love me. Someone to love me. What I'm actually struggling for is a sense of identity. I'm struggling with identity. And so even though culture is saying I need to be this, this, and this, thing is, even once you reach that, most of us spend our whole lives trying to reach that. But those who have ultimately understand that once they've reached the top, they have not found that love for themselves. Right? And so that's one thing that you need to be looking out for. And every generation has had to struggle with it. But what makes it very difficult, especially for millennials and Gen X, is, every generation has its own difficulty. But social media amplifies this difficulty to an exponential level. Right? The fact that whatever you see on screen and the way in which people project themselves on the screen, it's so tangible. Every day, every minute, you're fed with data of people trying to fight for their self-identity and self-love in such a rampant way, like never before, that we are bound to be knotted. We are bound to be as confused. The world is a confusing place by itself. Throw social media into it, and you're just going to bountifully make the problem really complex. Why is that person like this? Okay, so then I need to be like this person, but this person is like this, and we want others to like us first in order for us to like ourselves. We want this love from this person. We want this many likes, and we want this much approval. We need this many comments. And in one sense, we are seeing ourselves based on the way in which others see us. So say you liked a particular photo and you put up that photo, but you ended up with a friend list of say 500, only 5 people have liked it. Now you understand, now it doesn't matter whether you think that you are good in this. The fact that others have not validated it makes you dislike that photo in the first place. So then you have to again put something else to pander the crowd, okay, to make other. And so even if it's something that you might not be very comfortable if others have liked it, then in one sense you start liking it. And so it's what social media is going to do is going to make this problem so complex. All right, we're going to go so far away from ourselves that we are not going to understand what does it mean to love ourselves. What does it really mean to truly love ourselves? Is there something like this? Problem with the English language is we just have one word, right? Love, to define a whole range of things. But an interesting thing is the Greek had different words for love, right? So eros is a love which you feel for another partner. You know, when you first see the guy you like or the girl you like, you know, the butterflies in your stomach and those feelings of infatuation that you feel. It's a very strong desire in us. In one sense, you need that desire in order to get married and have children and things like that. So it's a very basic love drive that we have. We have high potential to distort it. That's another aspect, and that's another complex topic in and of itself. But the whole thing of eros as a love for another person of that gender, you know, where you fall in love with a particular person. Storge is family love. All right, love within a family, a father to his daughter, a daughter to her parents, and all those things. All right, love in family. Philia is love for friendship. All right, and so there are different words for love. All right, but one way in which we say love only for the self, purely for the self, is almost a negative word, right? Narcissism. And this is something that we will be looking into in the time of question. Now, why is it that the word in which Greek thinking always said love for ourselves, purely self-love, all right, is narcissism, right? And that's a complicated thing, you know. The word is, if you love yourself or if you only love yourself, then there is some problem. We as human beings are called for something higher. But here's the interesting thing. It's not saying self-love is narcissism. It's saying selfish love is narcissism. All right. It's the warped nature of loving yourself. All right. In fact, in Dante's what hell, Satan, or the evil one, is looked at a person who looks into the mirror and purely admires himself. You know, completely satisfied in himself, his own looks, his own intelligence, and things like that. A person who's completely drawn to themselves. But self-love, all right, and even in all religious thinking, self-love has never been a negative thing. Selfish love has been a negative thing. All right. Self-love never has. And one of the thinkers that we know, his name is Saint Augustine. All right. He says one of the biggest problems in this world is distorted love. And here's what he says. In order for you to love yourself, in order for you to find your true self, you need to put yourself into a greater context, into a bigger context. So for example, I need to understand, well, I am right now, I just became a father 4 months back, and that's an exciting journey. I'm a husband to my wife, Sitara. I'm a son to both my father and mother who stay here in Bangalore. I'm a brother to someone. I have all these different types of love. I have a particular job. I have friends. In order for me to truly find myself, I have to put myself in the context of something larger. And when I do put myself in the context of something larger, I'm able to love myself greater. You know, I really love this laptop. You know, for example, I have a Mac, and I think I've done so many things with this laptop. Now, the thing with Saint Augustine is saying, if I distort that love, if I think, you know what, this laptop is the most important thing for me. So when I go to sleep, I hug this laptop, and then at some point something happens with my wife, but I care about my laptop better. The thing is, I'm distorting my love for a particular instrument. You know, I'm making my love for my wife lesser than my love for a particular thing. The best way to order yourself, all right, the best way to live in this world is to be able to put things in its proper order of love. And the fact is, you need to love yourself. But the biggest problem is that we do not know what it means to love ourselves. It immediately moves to a selfish love. You need something greater. You need to put yourself into something greater in order to understand yourself. The fact is, we as human beings are very complex. people. Our thinkings are complex, our way in which our upbringings are complex, our culture is complex. And so in one sense, we really don't know what it means to love ourselves. The advertisements and movies always says you need to have such and such a shoe to love yourself, or you need to have such and such a job to love yourself, or you need to be in a particular position in a company to love yourself. You need to do this and this and this and this and this in order for you to love yourself. But one very important way, and a lot of most religions speak about it, is that you always have to put yourself in a context of something greater in order to love yourself. Right? Just taking yourself out of the equation and loving it for the sake of it distorts it. There is a good way to love yourself. There is an amazing way to love yourself by putting yourself in the context of something greater. That's the first thing. The second is this, and this is what Jobin was sending me in the questions that he was sending me, and this will be a question that you'll be discussing on movie Goodwill Hunting. All right, I really liked the movie when I watched it, and I saw there was like a lot of profound themes. It's basically about this genius, Will Hunting. All right, so he's very cognitively gifted, right? Very high IQ, but one of the things that he can't do is to accept who he is. Yeah. And what the movie shows is deep levels of brokenness in his life, absolutely broken. So he meets a girlfriend, and the girlfriend is trying to love him, but he does not accept it. All right, he cannot accept that love. He has a mentor, and this is Robbie Williams, who's trying to help him out, but he cannot accept his love. All right, and ultimately he has a group of friends, but what the movie shows is finally, by accepting the love of others in his life, there are so many people outside. He meets another mentor, who's another professor, who feels that he has something very he is very gifted in his mind, and so he tries to help him. And because he has other people loving him, he is finally able to love himself. That he needs a greater love to captivate his heart in order for him to love himself in the first place. And that's a very interesting idea. It's a very interesting idea for me, that you cannot love yourself within yourself. That's not possible. And human beings have always tried to do that. And when they can't, they feel they need something else out there in the world. Oh, if I reach a particular position in life, if I have this much money, then I can look at myself. But loving yourself requires something more than that. It requires an external entity to love you and to make you feel safe. I had a couple, a missionary couple actually, who came here, and they had adopted a child, right? And they have two children of their own, and they adopted this child in one of the slums in Bombay. And it's a very neglected child, and you can imagine it was a child who was rescued from slums, Bombay. But she had grown up. She was about 4 to 5 years old. And one of the things that they realized is every night the child runs to the kitchen, opens the fridge, opens the drawer, eats everything that the child can find. And the child kept doing it because the child felt if she does not eat all of this, then tomorrow somebody else will come and eat this and she won't have anything to eat. It took a long time for the parents to convince the child, no, we love you, all right, and we have enough for you. You are safe in our love. You are protected in our love. Yes, you've come from an environment where you've been completely exploited, but you're not going to be exploited here. Right? You can be sure that we love you and we will provide for you. And it took years and decades, in one sense, for the child to really understand, okay, my parents love me for who I am. I don't need to take this. I don't need to fight for my existence or fight for my love. I am accepted. And one of the things that we ultimately have to be able to come to is to accept us for who we are, however we are made, however we look, whatever intelligence that we have, whatever jobs that we will have, whatever family that we come from. We have to accept these things and accept ourselves within it. The world out there, social media out there will always tell you, no, you can't accept yourself for who you are. You need to be such and such and such. Okay, you need to put this particular filter in order for you to look good. You need to speak in this particular way in order for you to be accepted in a community. You need to do this, this, and this. And it's always a scathing punch onto you loving yourself. But I'm a Christian, and one of the ways in which I get validated is the fact that God loves me. All right. I am accepted by 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 the creator, by a God who's made me. I feel accepted by him. And if I feel accepted and validated by him, then I don't need to pull that love from somewhere else in the world. I find my identity in God. And I can love myself, and through that love others, in and through that. You know, that my love for God and through God others helps me understand what my place is, and my love for myself. And so it's always that, right? One of the things that the Bible says is that you are called into the family of God, that the love that God has for you is so intense and so deep, like a family relationship. And family love and family relationship is, one sense, very deep. If those of you who've been privileged to be born in a good family find that parents accept you no matter what you are, who you are, yes, there's many struggles that they would have along the way, but in one sense you are accepted for who you are. And one of the things that you will find, right, and I have found as a Christian, is that I am able to love myself for who I am when I place that love in God. When I feel accepted by something greater than myself, I'm able to love myself because I'm in the context of something greater. That my life has worth and value because not because I do this and this and this, because I feel loved by God. Yeah, and that's a very important aspect of self-love. That in order for you to love yourself, you need to put yourself in a bigger picture. Because if you don't, then ultimately the world around or culture around will say, this is how you need to be. This is how you need to be. Right. So with that, I am going to end my talk and move into a time of Q&A. It's just you feel free to really challenge me on these particular issues. If there's a point that you don't agree with, feel free to ask. But my basic point is this: two basic points. All right. One is, we as human beings really distort our love. And secondly, the way in which we find self-love is by putting ourselves into something greater. All right. And for me, God is that greatest thing under which I'm able to love everything else in my life, under which I'm able to order everything else in my life, and a healthy love for myself that does not drive to narcissism or selfishness. Right.